It is finally 3 p.m. Eastern on Friday, SMITE fans. That means the SPL is back. My name is Dolson. I'll be your host for the day. Joining me for set number 1 is Mifflin. And Mifflin, what a way we got to start off this weekend. Ghost Radiance, Sanguine Obey, though, to round out the day here. So you went Obey there in that matchup. Ghost Radiance, though, of course, one we're going to talk about a little bit first. But what a slate of games we have to start off this weekend.
Look, man, we really led with heat this week. Ghost versus Radiance. The only thing that could have made it better if both of them were able to maintain that undefeated streak in the last week. But I'm so excited to see these teams play against each other. Ghost, because they've just got this very distinct style of being the early game titans of the league. And Radiance is a little bit more effervescent or ethereal in how they like to win games. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they are able to blow you out in the early. Sometimes they play a more sanguine play style. They're much more, I don't want to say adaptable, because we've seen Ghost perform very well in the late game, right, but it seems like they're adapting to every individual set. So I'll be excited to see what Radiance bring to really stand up to Ghost.
It's no longer a battle to remain undefeated. Everyone has now lost at some point in this league, but it is a battle for first place, at least where we stand. The team, the winner of this set, will jump up. SSG will play tomorrow to try to match that against the United, so a good chance there for them. But for the moment, the team that wins this set will be in first place here in the SPL. I want to talk about the support matchup, though, here in this one. You look at Radiance, they've got Aurora. You look at Ghost, they've got PBM. And so much of the game plan, it feels like, for really both of these teams, drives through that support pick. So I think this is going to be an all-time matchup to watch here, at least in Phase 2 of the SPL this year.
If there was ever a set in which Hercules gets banned, it's this one, right? We've got the two premier Hercs of the league. I don't think we get to see Yamoja either. Both of them are very potent on that pick. I think we might be looking at a P's and B's in which, really, we're going to see maybe 4 to 5 support bans all the way across the board, just because these two really are the driving forces behind their teams. They're able to find these leads in the early game. They play this more support-centric play style. They're not going Assassin's Blessing like we saw from Oceans or Inbound earlier in the week. They're still playing with that Guardian's Blessing. They're still going this Gauntlet of Thieves build, but they continually find pressure. They find a way to get involved in the early game, and they do it so well.
Hey, you know what I noticed about every single one of those clips is, Captain Twig is doing a lot of killing, but PBM is awaiting in the wings, and every single one of those clips, the setup is there. To say that the early game flows through Mike, I think an understatement there, but now we look at the focal point of a few of those clips. I think Captain Twig has played so well over the last few weeks. Really, this Ghost roster in general has, I think, stood up to the task that stands in front of them. Do you see much overlap, though, Mifflin, between these two mid laners, BMT, Twig? Do you think there's all that much contest, though, all that being said, at least as far as picks and bans go?
I'm not sure that BMT is really looking to take Twig's picks. Twig is this Hebo guy, he's the Raijin guy, sometimes he's the Poseidon guy, and BMT is a lot more adaptable in what he's taking. He can play those mages. I mean, we saw him almost single-handedly win a game by himself on that Merlin pick, but he's also available to play gods like Neith, like Heimdall. He's able to do whatever his team comp really needs of him. And as far as it goes, I think that's the main lead that Radiance has over Ghost. BMT is one of the premier mid laners in the league right now. He's had such a hot season. I think that really, I'm not trying to be BM or anything like that, he might just outclass Twig.
He was one of the trending players in the SPL waiting room, so one to keep your eyes on here, the mid lane matchup as well. He brought up picks and bans. Hey, let's see where these teams go with it. Hercules was the big one that came to mind when talking about Aurora and PBM. You say, if there's any set where Hercules is going to get banned, it's this one. I absolutely agree, but it seems to be every set against Radiance. 64% ban rate against Radiance and Ghost, for that matter. So don't see a world where he's let through. The Yamoja as well, not surprising. And that's going to be such an interesting dynamic to follow, I think, Miff. When you look at the potential for all of these support picks to get taken off the board on either side, I wonder if that starts to open up the door for some of these power picks to let their way through. Hebo, though, first ban overall, not surprising after what we've seen Captain Twig do.
Yeah, shots fired on the first ban from Radiance, immediately taking out something on Ghost. And that also opens them up to see, all right, how is Ghost going to respond? What are they going to do? Seems like they're going to go ahead and go for the more standard ban phase. Both teams eliminating the premier magical hunters inside of Olarun and Freya. Yamoja, potentially the best support in the game. I'm not going to say potentially. Yamoja is the best support in the game, so that gets banned out very early on. but Hercules does make his way through, I'd be surprised if Radiance
Right.
don't take it.
Hercules, Persephone is still around, so there is some power still left on the board. And remember, when we're talking about Mike specifically, Aurora has shown some flexibility as well, but Mike has shown us this early aggression on the Geb, the Kepri, the Ymir, maybe not so much the Ymir, but he has shown flexibility, so if there's either support that's maybe more impacted by heavy support bans, it might end up being Aurora on the other side. But Persephone given away as a first pick here, very strong, and actually like this Cupid pick away. It takes it away from BMT, somebody who might play that. Also takes it away from the long lane of Radiance, another spot where we've seen this Cupid fall. So I think Ghost find a good answer there with their first pick.
Oh man, don't tease me, PBM. This better be a Hercules lock-in. I want to see it. Best case scenario for me, PBM gets Hercules one game, Aurora gets it the next game, and we get to really get a head-to-head comparison on the impact that both of these players can bring. I mean, that would be such a sick storyline. But this Cupid pick, very smart. It can flex in the mid, as you said, or we could see it take the Cyclone spin in the long lane. Either way, Cupid should be able to bring pressure. Cupid into the mid lane into Persephone, you've got a bit of kill potential with the backing of your jungler, especially through Fields of Love. But as far as the ability to put pressure onto that lane from a range, it's going to go to Persephone every day of the week. Wave clear, Persephone. Team fight potential, Persephone. I think that this Persephone pick has the ability to drive the pace of this match. Ghost Gaming are going to have to address it early on.
Cthulhu, and we saw this in the SOC, Mifflin, where Cthulhu fell to the second wave of bans, at least in the first game. Don't remember exactly where he fell in the second game of the SOC this morning. Will fall to the second wave of picks here for Radiance. So Cupid Hercules prioritized over the Cthulhu. We've started to see a little bit more of this as teams have figured out how to play around Cthulhu. And if you want to rewind the clock for Ghost, their matchup against SSG, they just sat solo lane. Remember, Mike rotates early over to solo. They put the Cthulhu behind early, and that's all Ghost needed to do. So maybe expect heavy pressure on that side of the map. Now, Poseidon locked in maybe tells the story of Twig in the mid lane with this Poseidon. Cupid then, of course, will go to Panda Cat there over in that long lane. Twig loves kind of these mid lane magey assassin types, and they've got one in the Poseidon.
I love this Poseidon pickup, man. I'm thinking Radiance might even be looking to ban out the Achilles from Ghost. We've seen that that has a lot of success going into the Cthulhu pick. But so far, both teams have come away with a very strong draft here. I would say that potentially this Cthulhu could even go into the support role, so there's a bit of a flex potential there, which might be why we're seeing these jungler priority bans from Ghost Gaming.
A lot of them.
I love it so far. These guys seem like they've done a lot of research on each other. I'm worried about how well this Cthulhu will fare if he does go into the soul lane, especially considering that this Achilles has been let through. If Ghost decide to take Achilles here, we might see that Radiance flex this pick even further. It lets them choose where they want to put it.
Now, we figured we'd see a lot of support bans, and we at least saw one in that Yamoja. Hercules let through. Instead, it's been jungle priority through and through with this last wave. Robin, Thor, Nemesis and Wheelix, and then Erlong Shen. We've seen him out of the jungle more often than not here recently. So 5 of the last 5 bans, I suppose. Only the Amaterasu stands out there as far as the last 6 go, are all jungle-centric. Now, this Cabrakan, I think, an interesting spot, Mifflin, where we've seen him once out of the jungle. That was Cherio who played it. But Ghost Gaming still have the ability to put that solo or jungle, I suppose, given what we have drafted here. What do you think of Cabrakan in the current meta?
I think Cabrakan has found his home in the jungle. Recent item and generalization changes for the mages inside the jungle allow him to find bursts very early on. Typhon's Fang incredibly strong, and his ability to gank each one of these lanes is incredibly high. Cabrakan has a fantastic matchup into Rom. You can very easily box out a Hun bots if you catch him isolated in the jungle. Persephone uses her jump. She's just going to die to that wall. But then Cabrakan solo seems to be the case with this Thanatos hover, and if anyone's going to make Thanatos look good, it's Sam for Soccer.
What a draft here, really, from both teams. You talk about now the jungle picks. Sanford Soccer's got himself Thanatos, the first time in Phase 2 that we'll see it here at the SPL level, and then Hunbats over to adapting. It's going to be an absolute brawl here in the jungle. Ghost love early game pressure, Mifflin. Do you think their draft is one that has the ability to find some?
Cupid, Hercules, Cabrakan, Thanatos. Yeah, that's a lot of pressure, bro. But Radiance might have the edge in the team fight. I mean, Persephone's ultimate, Fear No Evil, Kuzumo turning into a literal Beyblade, and then potentially the best team fight guardian in the game inside of Cthulhu. I think Ghosts really might have put themselves on a timer with this draft.
That's right. You look at the Cabrakan versus Cthulhu matchup. It's hard to maybe sway one way or another on where the team fight impact goes there. We've seen it time and time again from the Cthulhu. Cabrakan, not quite as frequently, but we've seen good damage out of him. This Persephone in the mid lane, I think it needs to connect for BMT.
It really does. The pressure should even come out from BMT as well. I mean, Poseidon will be able to clear waves a little bit more easily, but poke potential, damage potential, it's all going to be BMT. Radiance has such a good draft.
What a way to start off the weekend. Radiance versus Ghost. The battle for first. Chat, contain yourselves. It's Hindu and Aggro on the mic.
Thanks so much, Dave and Miffy. Yeah, it's me and Aggro here for this one, along with Doug on the ones and twos as always. Ryan, this draft I was definitely interested because when I first saw the Poseidon locked in, I'm like, well, that could flex jungle. Then I saw Cabrakan and went, well, that could jungle. And then we saw Thanatos and went, well, that's probably jungle, but could go solo. How do you feel about this draft?
I love it from Ghost, and I think that it's very clear that they know what strategy they want to go with against Cthulhu, but it's interesting that they don't pick that Achilles for Fine OK in this, and they take this Cabrakan instead. We normally see Cabrakan against these immobile gods that can't get up and over your walls. That's not really the case for Adapting or Big Man Tings. Those walls will mess with Cyclone and with Aurora and with Benji, but there's enough interrupt, I would say, from Radiance to make it so the tremors aren't that impactful as they could be. It's an interesting pick. I'm not exactly sure why they prioritize it over the Achilles, but they still get the execute in the form of Thanatos, which is a pick that they have played an awful lot in phase number 1. So it's a comfort pick for Ghost.
Well, the desk was already discussing the fact of the early pressure that Ghost may have. And you can see in the duo lane there, the Ghost step up and stop Radiance doing their own purple buff to sit in the laning phase. What's the benefit of this? Is this basically wave clear advantage here, Ryan?
It looks to me like Radiance was going to go for that new start where they both hit both duo members, do the purple, don't hog it, go to the big harpy, and then hog the alpha harpy, and that gets them both level 2 on the first wave instead of this support zoning ghost minion sort of strategy. I'm a little bit surprised that Radiance don't just commit to hogging purple at this point. Sure. Whenever you see PBM show up, it looks like they'd rather just take the lane and accept the fact that they're going to lose out on a little bit of pressure.
Well, they're going to go back to their own purple now. Meanwhile, in the solo lane, going back to that Cabrakan pick for Fine OK here. Did start off with the Shoes of the Magi early, so rush those boots. And went with the beads option in this matchup too, so not going to have the mobility with the teleport that we've seen out from solo laners before. But Cabrakan himself as well, Ryan, did get a couple of changes, like Tremors now grouping up the minions to make him easier to hit. But not only that, the Seismic Crush, that first ability of Cabrakan, no longer suffers from diminishing returns. Do you see that as a big win there for Cabrakan?
It is, because diminishing returns are such a hidden part of Smite that matter a whole lot. It's a reason why characters like Erlong Shen are really good because of how he interacts with diminishing returns, and you kind of need to really deep dive into the game to really get to that point.
Well, deep dive coming in from Adapting potentially here on this right-hand side, but he won't find the window he was looking for. Fine OK smelt the danger in time for now, as the pressure's still on, and Fine OK is getting relatively low there. Has to beat away from the slow, but he does have Sam on a rotation, looking for a potential pick. Looks like the call has been to back away for now, as we tune back in towards the duo lane, where the pressure is still in Ghost's favor.
Bit of an odd beads from Fine, but I think he was trying to bait Radiance into overcommitting onto him, make them think that he made a mistake, and then Sam comes in through the wings and cleans up a gank. Fine trying to bait that dash from Benji, and he does, but Benji's still safe enough. Looks like Sam probably walked over that ward that's topside right now. I think it's interesting the build path that Fine has gone for, by the way. He started full boots, then insta-backed after wave 2 just to get pots.
Well, there's Adapting showing his face, trying to slow down this blue bot steal that collapses on, however, though, from Radiance, as Big Man Tings has showed his face too, and that's left poor old Fine OK in the pit on his own. He'll juke and jive, but not enough to survive. Didn't mean to rhyme, but that's the crime. And then, meanwhile, in the mid lane, it does mean he loses quite a bit of farm, well, maybe not as much as I thought at first, in terms of a couple of minions to that tier 1 tower.
about half a wave there for Big Man, so certainly worth his rotation to guarantee that first blood. Maybe that was the time that Twig was resetting, though he's pretty low on mana, so was probably still around right there, just couldn't match the wave priority that Persephone brings, and that's one of Persephone's strengths, is that, yes, we know about the ultimate, yes, we know about the passive, all that kind of stuff, but one thing that makes her very difficult to handle at a high level is that you just cannot fight her in lane. It's not like she's got the highest damaging ability in the whole world. Bone Rush hits hard, but needs to get to the late game in order to really do so. It's really the fact that she can set up a billion plants on your wave, and that if you step up to clear, she just forgets clearing and hits you with the harvest plants, and then you're poked, and then you can't match her rotation anyways. So you have to give Persephone lane priority pretty much every time, or else you're going to get poked out, and that's what leads to that easy rotation over from Big Man tanks.
Although I'm a bit surprised Ghost still went for the invade if they knew that Radiance had that pressure in mid. That invade on the blue on the right-hand side could have been a bit more of a bargain for why Radiance find themselves in a lead now. With Captain Twig in the mid lane though, what kind of build are you looking for here, right? What are you expecting? Do we see the zoom Poseidon we've seen of old, where we see this Hakate play, or has it evolved again since then?
Lord, I hope not. I've been pretty vocal in my dislike for auto-attack Poseidon builds, and it looks like Twig isn't going to go that way just based on the Lost Artifact start. This Lost Artifact can easily turn into a Doom Orb. We see that a lot on Poseidon. But Twig's also really preferred that early Rod start. He did it on Hebo a decent amount last week. Feel like that's the direction he might go here, is going for that Rod up Tahuti, because the passive is just a little bit more relevant than what Doom Orb's going to bring. But if there is a character to buy Doom Orb on, it's probably Poseidon.
That's fair. We'll see if it could work out for him, and if he does end up going that route. It looks like as you said, he will be. Penetration, though, the option of the day for Big Man Tings at the moment. Looking towards that as the right-hand side now. Blue buff is spawning for Ghost Gaming, and Radiance feeling a bit more confident now after that last little engagement that he had. Starting to clump up nicely, but look at the wraparound from Ghost, and it looks like Adaptive's in trouble. Cancel that. It's Big Man, sorry, Polar Bear Mike as Big Man Tings hits that grasp of death. Aurora now stunned in place and walled off too. There's another one in the sky. Thanatos is hovering, looking for a pick if possible. Instead, it's going to be a walk-away situation, 1-for-1, as both supports go down, and a blue buff invade that just turns up in favor of Radiance, getting away some back harpies.
They're going to be able to get the back harpies. Should be another blue buff for them as well. I mean, Final Case here, but can't imagine that he's going to be able to get close enough to really do a whole lot. But PBM has respawned and is on the way back. Good discipline by Radiance to not chase that kill onto the Cabrakan. And so far, this Thanatos has not done what you want it to do, which is snowball and get ahead. In fact, Sam is down two levels to Adapting because of Adapting's first blood and the ability to then get the assist on the second blood. It's not a good spot right now for Sam.
Not a good spot for Polar Bear Mike there, who got aggressive alongside Sam, trying to run Adapting down and try and put his farm behind, I guess, on the lazy back, but gets punished for it on the return play from Aurora coming over to that right-hand side to protect. Brutal start for Ghost, over-aggressive, that has now paid off for Radiance.
Look at the gold difference between Adapting and Sam. I mean, that's a 700 gold lead right now for the Hun Bats, and that's not where Thanatos really wants to be. And I really like the adjustment that Radiance has made. Think back to those Phase 1 playoff finals. Yes, Ghost wins. It takes them 5 games. It went the distance. It was a very close set. But if you go back and watch those games, Ghost was ahead in pretty much every single early game, and Radiance had to make comebacks in their wins. That's not the easiest way to win Smite games, Hindu. I mean, you got to try and match that pressure early on, and Radiance is not sitting on their hands and waiting to outscale with their team fight composition. They get one advantage, they play aggressive instantly. I love the identity that they're going for, because I think this is how you have to play against Ghosts. I don't think you can wait around and hope for them to make mistakes. You got to force them to.
Well, left-hand side, you can see Cupid just coming back from base, working on the Dubal's going on some boost, but right-hand side, Benji's already popped the ultimate, trying to get Final K low. Preemptive ultimate there as well, coming out from good old Sam for Soccer to try and defend if they go for the dive. But it does mean an ult is down for Benji now, so he could be a bit susceptible. However, Radiance grouping up around this blue buff.
Look at the ward coverage that Radiance has as well. I mean, where is Sam supposed to come from to gank Benji? And this is just good research done by Radiance. They're looking at what Ghost has done to other Cthulhu players, and it's really that they've camped them over and over again and made sure they can't scale into the mid to late game. So Radiance picks a support that can fight early. Hunbat's not really the best at doing these sorts of invade things, but when he gets a lead, can feel really oppressive, and you know Sam is going Blink, so you kind of have that inherent kill threat against him no matter what. And Radiance are the ones putting pressure on the right-hand side. I count 4 wards for Radiance on that right side of the map.
Yeah.
And they've been up pretty much the whole time. I don't know how Sam is ever supposed to find a route in order to catch Benji off guard. I love the way Radiance is playing this early game.
Do you want to bring up the Humbat's pick as well? I mean, we've not seen Humbats in a minute. He's about to get buffed, funny enough, with his playstyle because his ultimate, Fear No Evil, is currently on a 2-minute cooldown, 120 seconds. Such a long time in Smite. It's one of the reasons we may have seen him fall out of favor, but he's back in action now. And speaking of that, there's a 2-minute cooldown waiting on Twig, who krakens onto a roll. Beautiful pull-in and blink from Mike. You beauty! He's trying to turn it around, but it might not be enough, or is it? We're pulled down from Twig. We'll secure the kill, and Polar Bear Mike with a play for the highlight reel.
Yeah, we're throwing that one on the highlight reel for sure.
Yeah, we are.
That is the dream for every Hercules player, man. Every time you lock in Hercules, I don't care if you're playing in the SPL or you're playing in a 3 a.m. arena queue, you're trying to hit a 2 blink for the boys because everyone pops off whenever it happens, and right there, Mike makes a big play, and it felt like Ghost kind of needed it, didn't they? I mean,
yeah.
with the way that their early game has gone, now PBM sets Aurora a little bit behind. Just a momentum play. I mean, Mike, as everyone should know by now, is not a quiet guy. Giving him a confidence boost like that and getting him a little bit pumped up is a recipe for success for Ghost.
Oh, definitely, especially with how that tier 2 play when he died for adapting early on. Like, that just puts him back on an even keel in a sense and gets his mind back in track. As we see on the right-hand side here, Adapting still looming around, looking for more invade opportunities alongside a Raw. Blue buff just does spawn as the mages now make their way over. I've not really spoken about the hunters yet, because, well, to be honest, left alone, as Mike is not being left alone, driving strike away from the overhand smash, but he can't escape the grasp of death. Did cost 2 ultimates, though, from Radiance on that to try and secure, but it works out well for them so far. Radiance playing well.
And Final Gate continues to just sit under tower for the most part. That's where he's really been all game up until this point. And as you mentioned, the Hunters have been totally free farming.
Yep.
And that's where I think that's why Radiance prioritized this ROM, because it's one of the few Hunters that seems to be able to deal with the Cupid in lane these days. It's kind of that push and pull of which champion or which gods you're going to see championed over there in the picks and bans. So far, it's been Cupid, and as a response, it's ROM.
Adapting over the wall, but the rest of the team didn't
Great
follow.
Kraken.
Instead, he's a Kraken. Now has to try and get away, but Sam is there with a blink alongside Mike to secure a kill. Adapting bit off more than he can chew, and now the pressure's on a Raw. That was aggression from Radiance that was punished by Ghost, and Sam gets a double kill and now takes a level lead over Adapting.
Just got to put your head down and get to farming whenever you're behind like Sam was, and that's what he really did. Didn't force any ganks. Was there in case Radiance overcommitted. How many ults did he hover with? Literally. Hovering death, by the way. Good attempts by Cyclone Spin to steal that Gold Fury, but Ghost's going to secure it. But Sam wasn't overcommitting to any fights, and then when the opportunity arises, he's right there again, and you got to give credit to Twig. That was a perfect play by him to set it up.
Feels all of using the right beats from Cyclone, rolls away, gets the pick, and now he's going to be traded out 1 for 1. Good work from Cyclone Spin there, in my opinion, in a tricky situation where he'd probably fall down. Quick pause coming out after that play there. But PandaCat falling in trade with Cyclone at least makes it an even one.
A bit unfortunate for PCAT that he hadn't been able to back and buy that Aegis at level 12. Definitely needed it right there, but it was a great play from Cyclone. You know you're dead. You know the ultimate is down. That's why he's getting ganked in the first place. It's a great play.
Oh, and there's a little look at that Mike play again. I'm sure we'll see that a couple of times on highlight reels from old. For the fans out there that don't really understand that mechanic, the 2 which pulls you towards it, if you hit that blink just before the 2 connects, it'll teleport the person to Hercules' location. So always take that into account. I mean, technically, you could do it through a portal, right? If you hit them with 2 and walk backwards through a portal, you could pull them through a portal in that too. It's not an easy mechanic to do, Ryan, but it just shows the levels of these guys.
It might be too slow. You know what you could do? You could Hercules to someone as the Hercules is getting Horus ulted and really send them pretty far. I'm sure the group of guys who does the arena crazy pulls and kills and fountain and that kind of stuff, I think those guys have already done something like that. But those sorts of things are very fun.
after the waiting room, by the way, I just want to mention real quick that Scaredy better have been watching that to remind you that supports do have mechanics, by the way. Got to keep remembering that one. Moving on to a different subject, though, on Poseidon in the mid lane, though. What I've seen from Twig there, he got to rank 2 of Doom Mob, didn't upgrade it yet, but instead went for some more lifesteal in this build, as you can see on screen. What, is there a reason for that? I mean, is the tier 2 of Doom Mob just that effective right now?
It is a pretty decent bridge item. You really just, on Poseidon, you desperately need MP5. He's a very mana-hungry character. I mean, Twig backed right there, being completely out of mana. Looks like he's going to finish the Doom Orb fully now. Maybe he didn't have enough to finish Doom Orb, and then just decided...
Trinket, so...
Yeah, tier 2 Trinket. I think... Now, I'm doing the cardinal sin. I'm mathing on cast. But I think Doom Orb from tier 2 to tier 3 is about 1,400. I'm pretty sure tier 2 Trinket is...
Is it 1,100?
Well, it's 1,100. Okay, so maybe he just had enough gold for that. And that's what he decided to do. Got to get your power spikes where you can, and had to back at the time. So yeah, if that's the case, then that does check out for me.
Does that up fine. Okay, meanwhile on the right-hand side, gone for the Stone of Gaia, one of his go-tos so far, and honestly, my sleeper item of the year so far. Meanwhile, Fear No Evil was just using the jungle there by adapting, but didn't find a home as much as he wanted to. No beads were available for Sam for Soccer, but he will slip the news for now. Kraken, however, on adapting, and good night, sweet prince. We hardly knew you. Big man Tinks could only really watch on there.
Could he have only watched? I mean, you got to communicate that Twig is stepping up.
Right? I guess,
you can't step up there if you're adapting. You have to really punish Twig better than that for stepping up that far. I feel like that's a breakdown of communication between Tings and adapting, because no way Twig should be able to just walk up slowly and Kraken you on bottom left without getting punished.
And there's one thing a lot of Poseidon players don't realize, how powerful it can be in the early game to just walk up Whirlpool Kraken. It makes a big impact and can really set up a team, or at least force someone back to base. Right inside though, you see the blue buff stripped away for Fine OK here, who did go for Stone of Binding too. I want to factor in Stone of Binding is still very, very potent at the moment. I think the hardest thing with that item, Ryan, is really where to fit it in your build.
Second, always. If you're buying it, it's
always
after
second?
boots. Always second, in my mind. If you feel like you're ahead enough
but there's no
on a
health.
character like... Yeah, but you're buying it mostly on Guardians, right? So you're buying it on characters like Ganesh, I think it's very good on. Whenever you're ahead, you can really snowball and get easy kills and set up easy kills for your teammates. Kabrakan's a great option for it. If you're playing Kabrakan in something like the jungle, I think you can afford to buy it third and not second. But if you're not getting it second or third item at the very latest, you shouldn't be buying it, because the stats just don't scale that well into the late game.
A little bit scared, though, of what Fine OK can do on this Kabrakan now, because it looks like we're going to see nuke Kabrakan in this game. He did pick up a Sunder to go alongside that Stone of Gaia and the Stone of Binding he's got there. So I'm very interested about the combo that can really come out and potentially one-shot one of these squishes in the later stages. His damage output is solid anyway. With a Sunder factored in, could be a bigger swing.
But no, that means no shell at all for Ghost, because PBM has gotten blink beads. You respect the beads pickup against the Hunbats and the Persephone, two gods who kill frontliners very effectively if they don't have that CC immunity on demand. Hercules does, but it still locks them in place for the duration, so it's not that great as an escape tool. No shell, no frenzy, nothing like that for Ghost. So they've just got to come by kills the honest way, it feels like, alongside that Sunder.
Blink, and there's a beautiful Earthbreaker again, but no follow-up available for the team just yet. Whirlpool was in range at the tail end there from Twig to force a Raw to use that ult defensively. Big ultimate there to go on cooldown. That Watery Grave so impactful in these team fights of making separation. And I think when you factor in the Watery Grave and the Fear No Evil, right, it's one of the reasons we see so many beads on the side of Ghost Gaming.
No doubt. Those are very disruptive ultimates that are very, very difficult to handle if you don't have an answer for them. The Kuzenbo ult for the Blink, though, I feel like is actually favoring Radiance. A little bit too overzealous there for Mike. I mean, he lands it, though. You got to give him that credit that he continues to be on point with the mechs, but got to be a little bit more wary of where your teammates are in that moment. I think that could have been an opportunity for Ghost to maybe just go for something like a Pyromancer with how zoned Radiance were.
We mentioned the Hunters really going unchecked outside of that one fight we saw that Cyclone came ahead of in that duo lane. I'm a little bit concerned as this game goes on that the Hunters could rule the roost in this one. As they're approaching level 20 quicker than the solo laners with all the pressure that we've seen over there, this is a time when you can really see a Hunter in the late game pop off potentially.
And both of them have the tools to do it. They're both going the pen build that's become very popular, the bow build, as it's kind of known, because you just hit the bow tree and you buy most of it. Especially if you're ROM, because that attack speed steroid that you get once you finish that silver branch, you're already basically capped on attack speed. Then you start absolutely slamming with those silver branch passive autos.
Ghost group up early, look to pressure onto the Fury, but Radiance are here in force 2. If anything, a tier 1 tower on the right hand side may fall down. Fine, okay, remember no TP to come from that lane, so we'll have to make rotations early. Sure, tier 1 tower on the right isn't the whole end of the game, but it's bonus gold and map pressure that's not going to be available for letting it go down for free. This dance of the Fury is going to continue for a while longer, I feel, with the position of these solo laners.
I mean, level 16 for Benji already, that's pretty good, but you look at the farm for the carries, 17 for Twig, 17 for Panda Cat. You feel like being level 16 at this point shouldn't be a detriment for Benji, but he's had to share a lot of those blue buffs that have come over. He's had to just get the XP from stealing the blue buffs, and that's shared, and that's less overall. Not always easy.
Ricky connects, driving strike 2, as does the boulder on Benji, and he does get his ultimate off. Execute, where are you? There you go, Sam picks up a kill. Now then, what can Radiance do in response? Not a mortar for Aurora as he gets scythed down by Sam for soccer, but Big Man Tings does at least take out Thanatos. And in the sky, Cyclone's got those shots to make it a 2 for 2, and a big old shutdown as well. Onto the Oni Fury go Radiance. Panda Cat watching on alongside Mike. They can't get in range to secure it or steal it away, and Oni Fury goes the way of Radiance. Overhand smash might get him another one. Cancel that somersault will. A double kill for Radiance, and for adapting swings the game back in their favor.
A beautiful turnaround by Radiance after Benji just gets absolutely one-tapped, but that's the idea of Ghost's composition. We're going to stun him, we're going to sunder him, and then we're going to execute him. But that puts a lot of pressure on the rest of Radiance to actually perform after all of those boxes are checked. And Ghost does what their comp wants to do, but ultimately ends up using a little bit too much, and Radiance are able to siege forward afterwards and then win the fight after.
I don't know about this one. This is a little risky for me from Radiance. I love the Gold Fury, I love the Pyromancer, but the Fire Giant, boys, this is a little bit dangerous for me. They're still leashing it though, adapting in the pit. Cyclone has to fall back, that's most of the damage away. Adapting leaves, and Benji and Aurora do a great job of frontlining as Sam dunks on down. Radiance make a risky call there, but I love the fact they disengage right, and I think that was the right call.
Has to be, because they just didn't have someone to start tanking it. And even though Benji gets there later with that teleport, it means that he's got a zone, but that means that someone from Radiance is doing significantly less damage to the Fire Giant, because whoever the Fire Giant's hitting does less DPS to the objective. And that someone's going to die pretty quickly, that Fire Giant, because you've got only squishies there to tank it for you. So a good attempt by Radiance. If they catch Ghost sleeping, they catch Ghost sleeping. Once Ghost shows up, they pass on it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think Radiance lose anything for that play.
Well, fine, okay, doesn't have a tower here, has to be careful, and does get away from the danger pretty effectively there. Adapting was trying to wrap around in the jungle for the most part there to try and make a bit of an impact. Just keep an eye on those mages though in the mid lane. I mean, both Twig and Big Man Tings haven't died so far in this game, and it's been a scrappy old affair, but their positioning kind of tells you it's been okay.
They've been working it out pretty well so far for both of those two, and I loved Tings' positioning in that Gold Fury fight because he was just all the way in the back. Persephone is this character that feels kind of odd because half of her kit is really, really close range. I mean, Flourish and Harvest, you really need to be in auto attack range to make Harvest work ever. Flourish, you have to be on top of them to make it work for damage and not just a mobility option. But Bone Rush and her ultimate are very long-range mage abilities. So it's a character that I think can get you caught out pretty easily if you're looking to be too greedy with the 2 and the 3. But Ting's playing much better around the outside abilities, the 1 and the 4 in that team fight, and makes it pretty easy for him to stay safe.
Radiance feeling pretty confident at the moment, grouping up as 4 in mid, where Ghost at the moment just holding the angle. I think he's going to give up that tier 1 tower in the mid lane, if I'm honest. A little bit of poke onto there coming down as minions now come in. Whirlpool won't clear the minion wave out, so that'll open the door for Radiance to get another tower in this one and start to swoop around towards Radiance's side of the map. Look at Ghost's jungle, by the way. All the wards are in their own half of the jungle here, Ryan.
They have to, because they know Radiance has priority at this point in the game, but it doesn't mean that Ghost is out of it. I mean, it feels like Radiance has all this momentum, but their lead is 1,500. That's nothing at 22.
Oh, the walls trap Benji in. The Kraken came out, but it's not enough to bring him low enough for an execute. What's Sam going to do now? That is the question. Ends up coming down on Aurora, who just eats it, no problem. Fear no evil after the fact from adapting with a good monkey toss and a grasp of death. It's not enough to bring the low health bars down of Ghost in time, but it is enough to open up a window. Tier 2 tower under threat now. Fields of Love drop down from Panda Cat to try and slow this progression, but it's not going to be enough at all. Ghost lose a tier 2 tower on a started fight from Ghost Gaming there.
That should have been perfect for Ghost. It is really just a little bit, I don't know if it was miscommunication, I don't know if they missed some abilities, I don't know if they were just out of position, but FineOK found the perfect catch on the Benji. Walls him off, sunders him, ready to go. That's the whole game plan, but you called it right away. He just was not low enough to get executed. And as soon as that happens, you are up the creek if you're Ghost, because you cannot afford to dump that much into a solo laner that can still get that much value out of their ultimate as Benji can and still win the team fight. And they do deserve some credit for not just suiciding into that team fight, feeling like they had to get in there after how that fight had started so well for them. I think a lot of teams do just lose the game outright there off of a bad follow-up, off a great engage. But Ghost understand that in this moment, we have to take the L, but lose the battle, win the war, I guess, was the idea there for Ghost.
Definitely, I think a lot of that really comes down to thinking about, what the call is. Is the call to go in or not? And then can they get it to be an updated call of like, hey, let's disengage, this didn't work out. I think Ghost, like you said, did a pretty good job of that, but they still lost some momentum there yet again as the lead stretches a little bit further for Radiance. 4,000 gold at the moment. And with this is how it's being played at the moment, Ghosts are really looking for a counter-punch, it feels like, to Radiance's aggression consistently.
That's really been the opposite of how it was in the Phase 1 playoffs for a lot of it, is that the Ghosts were the aggressors. And this is, I think, a great set for both of these teams to try and evolve as a squad, because Ghost has been this run it down, get pressure, get leads, win game sort of team. It's been one-dimensional, doing them a little bit of a disservice because they haven't had to have any other dimensions, because they've just been doing so well at that. But games like this are really good teaching games for this squad. And remember, we've got a lot of time in phase number 2. And the same can be said for Radiance, that being the aggressors and being the initiators and not just waiting for the enemy team to come to you and team fight you, I think is also a good evolution for this squad. And I think that this is how these teams get better once we get closer to Worlds time.
Another quick pause coming out here between the two as you look at it. You actually see there, you can see the pickup of the Magi's cloak. Or is it called Spirit Robe? No? Is it Magi's cloak?
The bubble? Yeah, you got Magi's.
I don't know why, my brain went like, wait, it's the wrong name now. But yeah, you see Aurora picking that up there as well. I mean, there's a few CCs on the side of Ghost here this game. Is that going to make a bigger impact for him, you feel, to stay away from dangerous situations?
Well, it prevents him getting 2 blinked in a tower and getting thrown on the weekly top 10 or whatever you want to call it. That's a big one. It is really just that the CC available to Ghost is a little bit unconfirmable. I mean, it stops any sort of FineOK engage onto him pretty much entirely. It stops the Hercules 2 from a distance. It stops you from getting peeled away with a Hercules push. That's a big thing as well. Whenever you're sumo slamming someone as Kuzenbo, it can be frustrating to just get driving struck off of them or stunned by Kabrakan. It makes sure that Aurora's going to get that whole duration of his sumo slam off.
Well, we're back in action already, and Radiance are on the fire. Giant Polar Bear, Mike, and Panda Cat, the nearest 2. Looking fine, okay, though, in base. Doesn't have TP, remember. This is going to be a delayed option from Ghost, but the Fury is going. Sorry, the Fire Giant is going the way of Radiance now. Into the sky goes the snipes from Cyclone, though. Looking to set up a pick on Twig with Benji doing the donkey's work, but Twig will get away for now. Gets a bit of sustain off that camp, too. Just an help from that Typhon's Fang coming through nicely to join that of that Pythax piece as Benji now whittling down the health bar of Twig, not enough to really cause more problems, but the Fire Giant going to Radiance there, they smelt a window of opportunity there and really successfully managed to find that kill.
Wonder if Radiance saw some Ghost members backing on wards, or if they just decided to knock and see if anyone was home at the exact moment that Ghost went out to run some errands. But either way, Ghost just get caught with a bad back timing across the board. You can't have that many people away from the Fire Giant. Like you said, I think it was FineOK who was coming back from base. Multiple members coming from left to right. That was Twig and Sam who were on the left side, maybe on red buff would be my guess. And then you end up with only 2 members there from Ghost, and 2 members who really have 0 steal potential as long as you play it properly. Boulder does a lot of damage, but it is so telegraphed and not very quick. Radiance do the right thing. All you have to do is hold DPS until after that Boulder's gone, and then you can secure it for free.
And talking a little bit more about what you were saying there, with 2 members of Ghost being around that red buff, I think the thing at the higher level play, Ryan, is that you generally see all the buffs on cooldown around the same times on both sides of the map. So if your red buff is down, you probably know their red buff is down. If your red buff's up, theirs is probably up. So if you've got all your members on the right, you see that red buff's up, there might be a window, and Radiance found it there. 2 towers now on the left-hand side down. Fire Giant around all their waist for about another 2 minutes 15 seconds. And instead of going towards the mid lane here, Radiance are grouped as 4, looking to pressure onto this Phoenix. But without Benji being here, might be a bit of a tricky attack than hoped for.
And no upgraded teleport for Benji quite yet. So that means if he wants to join, which I'm sure he will eventually, he's going to have to back, upgrade the TP, and then channel it. So we're talking a good 8 seconds or so that it would take for him to get there. And I think that's why Radiance know that they don't really have a great opportunity here.
Benji going to pressure the mid lane, still groups on the left is this Radiance squad. Ghost surrendering this tier 2 for the time being, but there's no minions there just yet for Benji to push, and honestly, Cthulhu ain't going to be the quickest pusher towards tier 2 towers. However, when Radiance show up as a whole 5-man squad, that will be a different story. Ghosts have just held onto their Phoenixes and now happy to surrender these towers and wait for the Phoenix defense. Talk about the defense real quick, Ryan. How do you feel about it for Ghost here?
It's not great. I don't like their Phoenix defense a whole lot. I mean, Poseidon's a pretty decent wave clearer, but he does need to be fairly close in order to do it. And if you're not fairly close, that means you have to use Whirlpool, and Whirlpool is such an important cooldown when it comes to the actual team fight to use it as a cripple against all this mobility for Radiance that it feels bad to use it there.
Pull onto big polar bear Mike there, who has to beads away as the cripple was actually down as well. Minion wave now coming in, keep it on FineOK on that right hand side. Will look to try and engage where he can. Without a blink, you'll see him coming. Looks like FineOK might be playing a bit more backline because of that. Sam still hovers towards mid. Mike off the mark with that Earthbreaker. Opens a window now for Radiance to get aggressive into the sky. Snipes out from Cyclone, looking at PandaCat, forcing him back. Below half health, overhand smash 2. Hits onto FineOK. Meanwhile, the pull from Aurora's causing problems for Mike, but Aurora's still trapped in the Phoenix area. No sign of Sam Fisaka getting involved just yet as a boulder used. Cracking out onto Rob, but Aurora's still alive. Health bar's getting low on the side of Radiance here, but Sam can't get to the sky in time. Adapting takes him down for a double kill. That's a Phoenix. It could just be the game.
What a play from Adapting. He's had a couple sick Sacred Monkey tosses this game. That was another one. A double for him puts him to 5.
And now 5 members still here of Radiance up against the 3 of Ghost. No ultimates really available for Ghost Gaming on this defense though. And the juggle of aggro. Fire Giant wore off, however. This is taking a bit of time here for Radiance to try and get it down, but it's slowly but surely Catchy Monkey will bring it down for a Radiance 1-0 victory over Ghost Gaming. Aggro, I expected these 2 teams to come out firing here today. It's a big one for these 2 to try and go top of the standings. And Radiance has come out swinging here.
They played great in game number 1, and they really understood exactly what Ghost's game plan was going to be. You can tell the prep was there. I loved their early ward coverage, the way they really prioritized that right-hand side of the map. Cyclone Spin quietly had a phenomenal game on this ROM. That left side Phoenix Siege is a great example of how this ROM ult is used very differently in competitive to how it is in most games that players are playing. Not to finish off a low health target, but he initiates with that ROM ult to force PandaCat back to Fountain, hits all 3 snipes, puts him to 40% HP, and that way they start the fight 5-on-4.
Well, that's 1 in the book then for Radiance, but can Ghost bounce back? Let's get back to the Deso for picks and bans of Game 2.
Appreciate it, fellas. Radiance do a fantastic job of slowing down Ghost Gaming's overwhelming early game. And then the rest is history there. Some good team fighting puts them on top thanks to a nice Fire Giant. And hey, if your game of life slows down a little bit and you need some more Smite content to absorb, youtube.com/SmitePro is the place for you. We got a lot of great content going out there. Grandmasters, Roll Q, Finch and I's recaps, all that sort of fun stuff. Make sure to smash that like button, ring the little bell, subscribe, whatever the YouTubers tell you to do nowadays. youtube.com/SmitePro for more Smite content. Mifflin, let's break down game number 1 between Radiance and Ghost, though, and what we saw that gave Radiance the edge.
I think Ghost's strategy was very contingent on that soul lane. They wanted to run a similar strategy that we saw last time they were up against a Cthulhu when they had the Achilles in solo. Look for the execute, pick someone that can box. But the Kabrakan really didn't get too much value. Even in the team fights, we weren't really seeing too much damage come through. He decides to go for Bead Sunder instead of picking up the teleport, so he was late to a couple of engagements as well. I would have really preferred to see Ghost Gaming reprise the strategy and run that Achilles in solo, especially considering it was still available, because they knew they were on a timer. We said it during the first test phase that Ghost Gaming's draft was going to get outscaled once they got to the 5-on-5 engagement phase. They had to win out big in the early game, and they won out, just not too large. I think the largest goal deficit we saw in favor of Ghost was about 1,300, and Radiance just kind of coasted through the first 15 minutes. Then they grouped up as 5 and won off of a bunch of really good Fear No Evils. Persephone ults were always landing home. BMT don't miss, by the way. He don't miss. Look at that. That across the map, he don't miss. You can't put this man on Persephone again.
That's right. That's what Ghost gave up in exchange for the Cupid and Hercules second wave of picks there after game number 1. Right, you know, the carefully chosen words were that Radiant slowed down Ghost's early game. They didn't win necessarily out in that early, but the normal ballooning lead that Ghost sometimes pulls wasn't here in game number 1. I think Adapting had an interesting game here, Mifflin. Some of the Fear No Evils just off the mark, but the rest of the Hunbats kit seemed to be connecting time and time and time again. A nice double kill there under the left side Phoenix towards the end of the game really puts this one to bed. So I think you look at Adapting and BMT and then Benji being able to absorb and output a lot of damage from game number 1, maybe what you hang your hat on here. What'd you make of the support battle, though? PBM certainly trying, but Aurora maybe found a little extra value.
I think in the early game we saw the best Hercules pool we've seen all year from PBM.
That was nuts.
And that's really all we saw from PBM. Sure, he was able to maintain equity. He didn't really fall behind, but he wasn't getting that same level of pressure that you'd expect from Polar Bear Michael's Hercules. There's a reason we associate that god with him. And he just wasn't quite able to get off to that running start that we'd expect to see. And come late game, we already knew what was going to happen. Radiance's draft was so good in the 5-on-5 that it's going to be really, really hard for Hercules to get any value. I think that he needs to maybe shift his focus a little bit more towards that long lane. We saw him rotate out of the long lane very early on and really commit himself to the 3v3 in mid, likely trying to deal with that pressure that Persephone was bringing. But I think you really need to Voltron together, work with Panda Cat, and make sure that Cyclone Spin doesn't have that phenomenal game that he had.
Yeah, the long lane from Radiance absolutely connecting. I am curious, Miff, do you think, for some reason, calling Mike Polar Bear Michael just sounds so funny to me. I wonder if that's what Slaney calls Mike after a tough game. Polar Bear Michael, I can't believe you've done this. Game 1, flushed away. Not all on Mike, of course. Radiance, I think, just played lights out. All right, time for game number 2, picks and bans. Is there any spot that your eyes maybe go towards as far as a change of priority goes? Radiance still in that first pick slot. You gave BMT that Persephone first overall. Do you think that's something you're willing to do again if you're Ghost? Give a Persephone yet again over to Radiance.
I don't think it should be, but if it is, they must have a strategy for it. But even then, Benji on that Cthulhu controlled the damage charts, he controlled the team fights, he was bringing healing, and the strategy that you brought of executing the Cthulhu didn't quite work out. If they want to let Cthulhu through again, I really do expect we'll see Ghost Gaming go for that Achilles pick, but that Persephone was such an absolute issue that could just be mitigated right now if they decide to ban it, and I think that would likely be the best call.
Yeah, the freest answer to anyone who just had a massive game on a god is just to ban him away. So we'll see if maybe Ghost with our third and final ban here is going to take that Persephone away. Some jungle priority. We saw the Nemesis taken away by Radiance as well. Freya and Olarun, no surprise there. Another Hebo ban, though, from Radiance. And there's the adaptation. Ghost is going to take this Persephone away. So still a lot available here as far as priority goes. I think the Cthulhu still comes to mind, especially after what we saw Benji do there in game number 1. Rom, though, would be a strong start here. Cyclone Spin looking to reprise that role and have another good game.
And he looks so good on this pick. Aggro already pointed it out, but he doesn't use that ultimate to finish off kills. He uses it to engage a fight, poke out whoever he can, and then by the time the fight is over, he's got that ultimate again. You want to have it up as often as possible, so you have to use it early on, and Cyclone Spin was one of the first ones to really engage his fights with the Rama ultimate, and it looks phenomenal on it. He's able to continually find pressure, his laning phase wasn't weak at all, and he doesn't really have the best matchup into Cupid, but he was able to stay afloat completely on his lonesome, left alone on that island in the long lane, but it does leave Ghost Gaming available to pick up the Cthulhu and the Cupid if they so choose. That's a pretty strong 2 if Ghosts go that way.
Also keep your eyes, yes, on this. The Hercules once again makes his way through the ban column. Mike is going to pick the Hercules back up here in game number 2. Again, the mechanical skill shining through in game number 1. Just the situation maybe around the Hercules wasn't the best. So tough for Mike, but definitely not out of it on this Hercules. I think a great start here for Ghost. You look at Fine OK on this Cthulhu as well, near unstoppable in the games that we've seen them. But teams have started to come up with that answer to this Cthulhu. We'll have to see if Radiance have it, though. A Hunbats rerun for adapting. I like that. And now Cabrakan is going to flip sides and go over to Radiance.
If that is Cabrakan's solo lane, this might just be the coolest play I've ever seen from Radiance. Oh, you thought your strategy was going to work on us? No, this is how you're actually supposed to do it. And it makes me think that it's either going to be solo or support because of this Hunbot's pickup. We know adapting is very likely to run it back there. This Cabrakan pickup is incredibly spicy, but in of itself, it's a decent counter matchup. Cabrakan's 1 completely mitigates Cthulhu's slow and root. You're able to very easily maneuver around it. Sure, Cthulhu can cancel out your tremors, but you don't really need the full channel of tremors now that they're able to group up the wave incredibly easily. I'm excited to see how this Cabrakan plays out.
Yeah, and one thing I think you mentioned, now that we see being locked in for Ghost over there for Panda Cat. We know what Panda Cat can do on this god. You sort of figured we might want to see a little extra long lane pressure from Mike, and now you look at one of the best facilitating gods for that in the Uller. Kill pressure abound, I think, for Ghost Gaming, at least right off the bat, maybe on the left side of the map. Going to be difficult to lock down that ROM once the roll is on, the ultimate is there as well. But early damage and lockdown, absolutely there for Ghost to maybe make an immediate impact.
Levels 1 through 4, if you get touched by any ability from Ghost's duo lane, you're very likely to die. Start off the fight with an axe stun, well, that's a pull punch for Hercules. Start off with a pull punch for Hercules, that's every single one of Uller's abilities. That's so much damage potential.
Right.
It seems like Ghost Gaming is thinking that this Cabrakan is going to be going into the support role, having banned out both Achilles and the Amaterasu now. So it's interesting to see where Radiance is going to decide to go with their soul laner if this is actually Cabrakan support. Radiance, on the other hand, banning out junglers, taking away some early game pressure, very reminiscent of Ghost style. Robin and Erlang Shen, very good at controlling the pace. So far, both drafts are incredibly strong, but it seems like Radiance, again, is leaning more so towards that team fight phase of the game.
I like this pick for Sam. I mean, Sam is the ultimate kind of pocket pick jungler that we've seen here in this league, where Thanatos in somebody else's hands might seem interesting. Pele hasn't quite seen as much play, but just sort of the data points we have around Sam playing these gods make it a little less interesting or confusing or out of pocket maybe for Ghost. So I think a strong maybe comfort draft for them through their first 4 picks here. Agni, maybe not along the same vein. I don't doubt for a minute BMT's ability to play this at the highest level, but a 2% pick rate is all we've seen. That's got to be, what, 1 pick here in the SPL is the only time we've seen this Agni, at least in Phase 2 goes. Do you like him there in the mid lane for BMT?
I'm a huge proponent of Agni. I think this god is slept on massively. The dash is one of the safest abilities to use out of that mid lane. It's going to be very hard for Ghost to find pressure onto him. His ability to not get zoned off of waves through ranged ultimates, Rainfire, one of the best ways just to make sure you're not losing out and you can stay safe from a distance. He's got so much damage and burn potential on these objectives. Agni's a very, very strong pick and phenomenal in the team fight phase. With any form of setup, he's going to have a ton of damage. And setup is abound for Radiance, Kabrakan, and Hunbots, and that allows them to take this Camazotz as well. Usually Camazotz has to be paired with all that CC, having none himself. Radiance has already covered their bases.
That's right, and with that Camazotz lock-in, maybe the picture a little bit more clear here. Obviously Agni in the mid lane, Kabrakan then falls to Aurora, Benji on the Camazotz in solo, and then, of course, Cyclone Spin, no doubt about that, and adapting, of course, on the Hunbots. Aphrodite to round out the draft now for Ghost Gaming, so a fun mid lane matchup to watch here, Mifflin. What do you think about the Aphrodite pick, and how does that lane maybe look for?
It's gonna be gnarly, man. Aphrodite links up with Pele, she walks up, knocks you up, you get the back off damage and slow on the tail end of it. The burn potential is there, and it doesn't just have to be this Pele. Link up with Cthulhu, all of a sudden it's gonna be so much harder to finish him off, especially considering its mitigations once he goes into Descent into Madness. Link up with Hercules. They've got such a strong front line here, matched up with Aphrodite to find that damage, and it almost acts as front line peeling for your back line because Afro is almost always going to be linked up to a tanky boy. Ghost Gaming's draft is a lot more cohesive this game, and their team fight potential is a lot higher, but they didn't sacrifice any of that early game pressure.
Radiance played their game in game number 1, were able to walk away with the win. We'll see if Ghost Gaming can bounce back in game 2 right now.
We really will, and I want to continue the conversation straight away, Aggro, about this Camazotz pick, because I think, honestly, Radiance did a really good job in picks of bans of navigating the cesspool of bans towards solo lane here. Because one thing I always find personally with Camazotz is he doesn't bring anything to the team fight, so you lose a bit of CC that you'd find in a solo laner. But this time they've kind of adjusted with this Agni pickup in mid lane. It does give them that little bit of extra CC that they may have once lacked.
Exactly. They are a little bit still CC light. I mean, only 3 of their characters have CC that you're really going to be beadsing consistently, but all 3 of those CCs can insta-kill you. My only concern is that only one of them is ranged, and that is where it can get a little bit awkward, where adapting has to really trust Aurora to go in first, get the beads, then he can go in, and sometimes that leaves you a little bit too vulnerable to something like an Aphrodite, who can then give her and someone else a free immune off those engages. But I think that Radiance certainly has the tools to succeed here. I just always feel this way. Anytime there's an Aphrodite on the field, you are going to be the focal point. How well that Aphrodite plays is going to determine the outcome of this game.
And I think I'm looking at BMT a little bit there as well about how those bomb stuns can really connect onto that Afro, or look for when they're grouped closer together, because Afro's link target needs to keep his distance there to make sure they both don't eat those CCs. Dual lane start though, you saw again Ghost Gaming getting aggressive here, trying to deny Radiance from doing their buff. Radiance this time though, loaded up deeply on their own half of the map to see the danger coming and made sure this is an even lane for now. And the next wave coming through, however, they're going to dip into their jungle and take down this purple, while Ghost Gaming keep the pressure in the lane.
A little bit surprised that Ghost doesn't do the purple into Alpha Harpy start, just because their level 2 power spike as Hercules Uller is so nuts in comparison to Ram Kabrakan, but maybe they feel like they can force Radiance to make a small mistake, and if you make a mistake against this lane, you'll die.
Oh, well, a big mistake could potentially be in mid lane. That burning dash coming out from Big Man Tings will be first blood. Could be a double if he can just find a basic. Adapted says, don't worry, I'll cover the option and make it a 2-for-0 early for Radiance in the mid lane in a Salmon Twig versus Adapting Big Man Scrap. Huge win there for Radiance. It could have been bigger, that, right, if some of the jungle caps were up, but there's nothing really available for them to take.
Listen, it's the worst case scenario for Radiance that there's nothing up for them to take, but they still got a double in mid in the 2v2. That's still a great spot to be in.
Dual lane, however, though, trying to answer back with a good Earthbreaker from Mike there. Not enough to bring down a Roar just yet. I know you mentioned the lack of range CC they've got. They did go for Blinks on both Adapted and Cyclone here, as now Sam for Soccer rearing his ugly head round this left-hand side. Ward has been placed down, though, as you can see, so they're well aware of the situation. Radiance play it safe and don't get caught out of position. And Sam is going to base on that ward, which is great for the team to know. Adapting might just wait for him to back and then engage himself after the fact. And that could be a danger time for Ghost now with that play. A Raw blinking on in, looking for a stun. Forces the escapes from Ghost, but pressure has been relieved. And they might even know Adapting was even there.
Man, I wonder if Adapting would have stayed. It's such a risky stay.
Oh, yeah.
Because all your right side buffs are up, but both PBM and PandaCat used their escapes, and then they stepped up. Think that might have been an opportunity, but Hunbat's at level 4, not exactly the scariest jungler in the whole world, so I think it's safe to trust Adapting's judgment in that moment.
Well, he takes his speed and now goes to his blue. Sam was showing his face for a second, but won't be there in time. Do want to go back to, though, the double blink on Adapting and Aurora this game. Will that help them out a little bit with that, the CC being a bit awkward to try and execute consistently? Will this allow them to get in range a little bit more, not just have to rely on Agni stuns?
Of course, that's really what it's there for. These two characters really rely pretty heavily on blink the majority of the time. As Sam's in trouble here, Fear No Evil away from big man Tings, but Sam still, I don't know how he gets out of this safely unless Adapting whiffs the somersault, in which case that checks out, and that's how you get out of it safely. Good identification by Sam that he has to force Adapting to push him away from mid lane, because if he goes towards big man, that's another easy kill.
That's a good point. I think the most interesting thing about that is if Adapting hit that monkey toss right at the start, he probably would have got the kill with that, and the basic attack would have been enough overall, but it doesn't happen this time round. So now 120 seconds on Adapting's ult is now on cooldown, whereas Sam should get a bit of time to get to that level 5. But I think the thing with Ghost overall, like this game, they've not got a whole lot of pressure in the middle area with this Aphrodite, you would say, up against the Agni. It's really much looking to farm up through this early stage here, Ryan. And that, alongside the Peli and both of them dying early on, is a real issue already for Ghost to deal with.
There's some tension on Ghost's draft for sure, and that Aphrodite is more mid to late game, and Pele, Hercules, Uller a little bit more early game slanted, though all of them still do great work in the mid game. That's where I expect this Ghost Gaming draft to really shine, is when we're at the 18-20 minute mark, where you don't have enough anti-heal to really handle the Aphrodite, and her damage is still super relevant, where Pele feels like she can 1v2, 1v3 fights with Volcanic Lightning, and Hercules' damage is still super relevant. I think that's where Ghost should make the vast majority of the plays once they get to that point, but we saw them try and make a lot of those plays in that exact same window in game number 1 of this set, and it didn't really work out too well for them.
See a bit of variation in terms of the Hunter builds this game too. Devour's Gauntlet's early rush for Cyclone. However, PandaCat going for full mobility here early on. Looks like the Ninja tab he picked up, looking for the mobility to close the gap or escape the danger. And at the moment with the position, it didn't look like they were kind of hunting as they placed a ward down. Sam now wrapping around to this left-hand side too. The ward coverage is solid for Ghost, but Radiance do not know this is coming. But what can Aurora and Cyclone do? You can see the step up from Polar Bear Mike, and with the rollout used, all in from Sam is triggered, and a nice first kill of the game for Ghost Gaming. But look at this round the corner, Adapting now on the way.
Still has Fear No Evil up and ready to go.
Beautiful.
And this time he's going to catch Sam for soccer without any sort of problems. A quick little escape using the Sacred Monkey Teleport as well. Make sure that it's a nice clean 1-for-1. But getting the beads out from Cyclone Spin, especially against this draft from Ghost in that duo lane, both of whom will kill you for not having any CC immunity, does prove to be a little bit scary for the ROM.
Definitely. It's very funny to see how this dual lane's played out over time, because you saw Radiance look for a potential pick once upon a time. Didn't really come from there, but it started off with Ghost getting aggressive. Level 7 then for Adapting here at the moment. Looks like he's going for the Jotuns, which I think is a little bit more common at the moment. I've been mentioning the Fear No Evil being such a high cooldown now. I think Jotuns seems like a lot of sense to maybe look at this game. Or would you look at maybe the Brawlers because of the sustain?
Gotta go Brawlers here if you're Adapting.
Yeah?
And
Okay.
look, I'm with you. I would love to build Jotuns in
20%
this spot
please.
as Hunbats. It would feel really, really good to get that CDR. And then you press tab and you go, do I need anti-heal this game? Oh, they've got a Pele. Oh, they've got an Afro. Oh, they've got a Hercules. Brawlers it is, fellas. Suit it up again. And that's exactly where Adapting goes.
And as we check in with Big Man Tings on mid lane, he's already picked up that Divine Ruin. Makes a lot of sense. The item overall is pretty solid. A couple of mage items did get a few buffs, so we've seen a little bit of lack of play of Divine as of late. But when there's so much sustain on the map, it's definitely a good item to go for. 90 power, 10 flat pen, always going to be useful.
It's not bad, that's for sure. And really the same goes for Brawlers. Neither of those items are bad items. That doesn't stop me from getting really excited whenever I don't have to build them, though, and I can get to go with more damage option.
That's a good point. And meanwhile, Aurora in that mid lane, you just saw the exchange of an ultimate there from Aurora comboing with that of Big Man Tings. You get a good idea of what's going to happen this game in terms of the setup. You're looking for the bombs from Big Man Tings into stuns, and then have the rest of the team collapse on the targets. But it's about distance separating between the Afro and whatever it's linked to time and again for me in this one. Radiance, though, at the moment, down in gold, even though they're up in kills. There's a Fiddle even in mid. Doesn't do its work. Instead, Adapts him pulled under, but he will survive. The last tower shot won't be enough. Aurora meanwhile blinks in. Sam does the same thing and secures the kill. And now it's Agony on the run, and the dash on cooldown means good night, sweet prince. Aurora could be next on the list, and it was almost a feeding frenzy here. It will be a feeding frenzy for Sam, unless the stun comes through. Snipes from Cyclone, though, at least evens the deal. And Cyclone gets a double kill as he rotates to his red buff. Get Rama away from Cyclone. They first picked it, Ryan. They need to take it away.
It's just too good for him, man. A double kill for him. The tower helps him out a little bit, but it's really smart. I mean, you put the one pot shot into the guy who's tanking the tower. Now you'll get the kill credit when the tower kills him almost inevitably. And then you make sure you get the other one before he realizes what's going on and where these shots are really coming from. An absolute bloodbath in the mid lane, but at the end of the day, Sam comes away with every single kill so far here for Ghost, and even with 4 kills to his name, he's still a little bit down in XP to adapting because of those 3 deaths.
And you mentioned that mid lane focus we've seen this game. I mean, game 1, there was a lot more focus towards the solo lane, but I think that really is coming down to the specific picks we see here in the solo lane. I don't think it's easy for either of those junglers to find a kill there.
No, I don't think so either. It's just a lot of mobility, and they have a lot of turnaround kill potential at the same time, which is really, really hard to deal with as a jungler. Bit of a bad beads there from Big Man Tings. That could end up mattering in the grand scheme of things. But Cyclone just kind of happens to be at the right place at the right time. Gets one, and then make sure that the second one's going to go his way because of the tower shot. Perfectly played.
Yeah, that first one was pretty much max distance for my liking, but that's what you need at that moment in time. Beautiful shot from Cyclone Spin, and finds himself a bit more of a lead now in this lane, working towards what most likely will be that Atlanta's bow. As the Transcendence picked up from Panda Cat, but needs to be stacked up. So a bit of a stacking situation there where Ghost finds a power spike in that lane. Will be a little bit later here for this Ul, whereas Cyclone seems pretty comfortable so far, getting even more attempting at being aggressive and stripping away some camps.
And the fact that Cyclone has gotten away with the Devo Gloves rush, so low mobility against the Uller, straight into the boots right afterwards, and got this many stacks is huge. Makes it really easy for him to withstand that poke.
Well, the pressure from Sam on the right-hand side comes at a cost for Radiance, for Ghost on the left, as they lose Polar Bear Mike at their own red buff. Sam, though, might be able to get in range for this ultimate if he can. Benji's just trying to limp away, but won't do so. But where is the rest of Radiance is the question. You know where? There at the Fury. Benji did so much there with that Camazot's pick by just running away to buy time for Radiance to find advantages elsewhere.
And Radiance do exactly that. And so far, Hindu, the big thing that I've noticed here for Ghost is that Panda Cat's been awfully quiet. I mean, game 1, they top-picked that Cupid, and it did not a whole lot there for Ghost in that game. And now in this Uller, where you expect him to really be able to bully in lane, especially with the start that Cyclone went to, it's really been Cyclone making noise and not Panda Cat right there. I mean, not that I'm expecting Panda Cat to go in and stop them 1v4, but it's another play on the left side of the map that has gone Radiance's way. It's not been PCAT's set so far, that's for sure.
No, and I think PCAT, honestly, for the second phase of the year, for my liking, he's struggled to get in the zone. And I'm not trying to say his play is bad, we've seen him really pop sometimes, you know? Like, when he gets in that zone, he's an unstoppable beast. However, this split so far, struggled here or there for my liking, and you can start to see that a little bit more in games like this specifically. Can he turn it around, though, is the question. When Cyclone's now level 12, has that second relic online, it becomes trickier for him to find an advantage in this lane.
Driving strike from Mike straight into the waiting arms of Sam for Soccer. With the damage coming through from Twig, you think that would be enough, but eventually it takes the boulder from PBM. But here comes the rotation from Radiance.
But can they really make anything happen on this rotation is the question. Look at the aggression from Sam. Comfort to go in and try and pick Benji. Hey, Benji's also on cooldown, guys. Let's take the kill. Don't worry. I've still got an ultimate, but the snipes and the Fear No Evil come into play to answer that kill back. 2 for 2 so far. Make it 3 for 2 as Big Man Ting's get his double kill. Make that trips. Great play for Radiance there, and that's going to swing him towards a Pyro as well. We're 12 minutes in, Ryan. Look at the KD. Look at it, 11 to 7. This is crazy.
Man, no brake pedal at all for Ghost. Their car goes one speed, and it's fast on these team fights, but Radiance is just being so responsive. And I really feel like Radiance came in with such a great game plan to handle Ghost's playstyle. And this is exactly what you want a team to do, is adjust to what the most successful team was doing, and Radiance has done that here.
Oh, that was a huge axe. That was everything but death there for Panda Cat. But you're right. I think Radiance have really done a great job of adjusting. Ghost looked for a cheeky pick on Benji there in my eyes, and for a second I thought it was worthwhile. But the rotation from Radiance, Ryan, was just at the perfect moment.
And they just are being so responsive. They understand exactly where Ghost is going to be. Cyclone is all the way over on the right-hand side. Who knows why he's at that part of the map, but again, he just seems to be in the right spot at the right time and ends up being able to punish Ghost really, really accordingly. And now you've got an Agni from ahead. An Agni from ahead still feels like one of the most potent mages because he just always has buttons to press between multiple bombs. Now a Chronos pendant for Tings, which normally I'm not a fan of on Agni, but when you get ahead like this, you force beads, Aegis, Aphrodite ultimates, things like shells, things like that. You get all of that from one bomb stun, and then you'll have another one up in a few seconds right after that. And you've got Flame Wave and Dash and more bombs coming even after they use that defensive option anyways. So I think that in this position, Radiance is really in a good spot if they can play through Tings.
And I think the big key there is we've talked about the lack of CC. Well, that combustion, 12-second cooldown on Noxious Fumes, I should say. And that causes a lot of problems for teams if that cooldown's up more often. More CC, more hope for Radiance to collapse on in. Radiance are playing lights out today, in my opinion, right? I mean, they're allowing Benji to be the focal point of Ghost ganks, but then turning it around or making a play off the back of the aggression towards Benji. Radiance have really come out strong here today.
They absolutely have, and Ghost is really suffering the consequences of looking like the most dominant team to start the phase because their wins were so convincing. Even though Radiance was also undefeated up until the same point, they had some games that felt a little bit closer at the very least. So when you're up top, you've got the target on your back. And I think that Sanguine did a great job of setting themselves up to beat Ghost and went with the style that was necessary. Now Radiance is coming in with a very coherent game plan and the potential to beat them playing the same style. And now it's going to be on Ghost's platter to try and adjust to what teams are doing to them.
And you see a double stun in mid, and Twig was using the ultimate there defensively, worried about an all-in. A forced ultimate from one bomb stun from Big Man Tings. That is going to be impactful now, especially with the next Fury about to come up here. I'm interested to see who goes to the Fury first. Will it be Ghost trying to get ahead of a terrible situation? Or do Radiance just feel confident now to maybe look that way with Rama? Well, not Rama being as big as he is, because look at what Panda Cat's done there. He has managed to get ahead in levels now.
And that's because of that rotation from Cyclone over towards the right-hand side where Radiance would get the 4 for 2, and the Pyromancer, that was Panda Cat invading, being aggressive, pushing out waves that whole time, which is exactly what he needs to do. And despite the deficit now for Ghost, which is very, very relevant, 4K at 16 minutes is nothing to shake a stick at, this is where Ghost's composition starts to do the most work right now, where you have 3-item power spikes for the majority of your team. So if there's an opportunity for Ghost, I do feel like this could be it. But if they don't manage to stem the bleeding, Radiance has the potential to really snowball this game.
Speaking of power spikes as well, Polar Bear Mike now at level 13 means he's got a secondary relic online. That Frenzy picked up for a bit more damage. Mike avoids the damage, but Twig does not. Twig still has his beads available. We'll use it at the tail end, and it won't be enough to keep him alive. Cyclone's in the sky buying time, waiting for his team to turn back round. And a nice pick on Twig has opened an opportunity for Radiance, who aren't being greedy here. Benji was in base, now teleports towards mid lane. Now that Benji shows up, and we find OK heading back to base, there could be a look towards this Primal Fury.
Especially when Cyclone heals up a bit off this purple buff. It was a risky pathing by Mike and Twig. Maybe they felt like they had more pressure on them to make a play than we thought.
Blinking from Mike, can't find the Earthbreaker, just hit the driving strike on a Roar. Bit of poke from Panda Cat, but Fury's still leashed down by Benji at the moment. However, fine, OK, running for the backline, trying to keep the pressure on Cyclone and onto Big Man Ting. Cyclone ends up falling down to Sam, scooting on him with that ultimate 2. Panda Cat looks at Benji, who turns around and takes the sky, takes out Sam for soccer, cancel that. It's Big Man's bombs yet again, a Roar low. But the good news is their Fury is still alive. Ghost managed to buy some time. Twig on the way back, and Benji and Agony at half health are the only two hanging around here.
Ting still has both relics though, which means that he can play a little bit more aggressively than you would think, but this is where that Aphrodite sustain comes up huge for Ghost.
Panda Cat now into the fray again towards the Fury, but low on health, as is Fine OK. Fine OK doesn't have teleport, remember, so if they lose him from this engagement, it could open the door. That's why he's hanging around a little bit more, hoping for some sustain off Twig at some point. At the moment, he's leashed to Polar Bear Mike. But meanwhile in the jungle, you can just see another base coming out from Agony and Rama there. This is Radiance's time to just wait and hold and not give up the Fury. Everybody backs away then. Nobody gets control of it.
Worth noting in the teamfight recap, XP and gold slightly in Ghost's favor, but don't forget that that was with Twig getting absolutely crushed right off the beginning of that fight. It cost them a couple ults to do it, but that was still a 5-on-4 that Ghost managed to stalemate pretty effectively.
But they do know they got Captain Twig's beads as well. The ult comes down from Aurora on Fine OK, though Fine OK doesn't have an ultimate of his own. Meanwhile, Fear Weaver towards Panda Cat gets sniped out as well by Cyclone Spin! The collapse onto the young lad is not going to be enough to at least make Sam for soccer make it one, and Panda Cat is going to survive a while longer until Benji gets that ultimate off in trade. So an carry, a hunter for a jungler so far, as Big Man gets caught on that Earthquaker one. Going to follow up just yet. Big Man happy to stand and keep throwing out these bombs for now.
Man, look at how much damage Big Man's doing. He's at 18k, the next closest is 11. It's not even close, and it's only getting better for Agni from this position. He's really keeping Ghost at bay very, very effectively, but he's playing pretty far up at the same time, a luxury that's afforded to him because of the lead that he has in both itemization and in actual levels. He's up 2 levels right now on Twig, but that won't last forever. Something to watch out for as this game goes on, because Tings cannot afford to be the one standing on the corner whenever it comes time for Fire Giant fights.
Is a good point. I mean, I will say this Agni pick, though, if you look at Ghost composition, they're very much an all-in comp, right? You got Cthulhu, you got Pele, you've also got the Hercules. They're all going to want to group close together. Just means more free damage for the Agni this game. If it's available for him, he'll take that option. Cyclone, though, now has finished the chins. Meanwhile, Panda gone into the Atlantis bow after getting that Atty for some sustain online now. Seeing if the Hunters can make a bit more of an impact in this game as it continues. I will say, Cyclone has made enough of an impact for my liking so far. Twig struggled a little bit in that mid lane, still 2 levels down. I know you were saying, you know, the longer the game goes on, the better Afro's going to get, but at the moment, he's having a tough old time of things.
Sure is, and right now he's building towards a little bit more damage, but I imagine that'll be a Spear of the Magus. That'll help Twig quite a bit. Synergizes beautifully with Aphrodite's kit. Probably a ways away from that. Take a look at where he is in the player damage charts, by the way. Dead last. But you know who's just above him? The Uller. And then who's above him?
Just above him?
The Hercules.
Yeah,
it's not
you
ideal.
really rely
Not ideal for Ghost.
A lot relied on Sam then. Fine, okay, this game as Aurora gets aggressive, as does Big Man Tings yet again. Dashes away from Cthulhu early, into the sky with the snipes, goes Cyclone, and takes the kill onto Sam for soccer. Mike at least trades out adapting as the bomb's still raining down on Fine okay. He can't last long enough against the chins though, and that's another pick there for Radiance. Meanwhile on the backside, Benji doing good work to keep the carries of Ghost at bay. And Radiance find a small win here again. Can start to look towards the Fury once more.
No anti-heal for Benji means he can do this all day long. He's looking like Captain America up here. He can brawl for hours.
Mike, meanwhile, trying to survive as long as he can, but has to driving strike away. Now Pandacat and him trapped to the tremors from Aurora. The chase on from Benji towards Pandacat. A little bit suspect for me, but can Benji find the 1v1 kill under the tower? He will do so, but it costs him quite a bit of life. Good news is, though, I'm pretty sure there'll be a few pools in the jungle to go and drink from if he needs them. But not when the Fury's available. Mike and Twig and Show again, trying to slow them down. Pick on a roll could be available. Damage not enough to really bring down that tanky Cabrakan this time round, as Radiance's carries take down the Primal Fury after about a 5-minute fight in this pit.
And no one has died for Radiance until maybe FinoK's teleport in.
Oof.
Great ultimate from Aurora walls off Twig, though he does not look deterred from this position. He's just not that threatening. With just Doom Orb and Breastplate of Valor, he's not doing enough damage to really threaten Radiance at this point.
And I think that's one of the reasons we see this frenzy from Mike, because I think they realize that Ghost here. I mean, their damage output isn't the highest. With how Pandacat's done so far this game, he's having an awkward time trying to stay in the right position, not be in a situation where he gets picked off early. So you're really relying on Sam to nuke on in, and that's where the majority of this damage has really come from outside of Cthulhu. It's not enough, Ryan.
It's not, and it's really apparent because Radiance is being able to take these long extended fights against a sustained comp, and they're still winning them, which tells you how low the damage numbers have been for Ghost so far in this game. It is going to be difficult for Radiance to do this forever, because eventually I think Ghost will get enough damage, but it won't happen quick.
Early Fear No Evil out there from Adapted the Snipes 2 from Cyclone, puts more pressure on. Bomb over the wall doesn't really do much, but Twig and Sam both low as the Pyromancer also fell. The tax rotating from Ghost though, trying to defend their backline carries. Benji is right on the back though, keep an eye on him. As on the front side, Cyclone did get hit pretty heavily by Polar Bear Mike there. Used both his relics, at least we saw Cyclone use relics this time. Benji meanwhile still being a nuisance in the back. Looking at Twig, who is completely at the moment, so the sustain factor lowers down for Ghost some more. Benji still far up on the front line. Has that bad out of hell available though if needed, but Radiance with another big win there in terms of an engagement. And they are playing so well today, like they're just really full of confidence.
How is Ghost ever supposed to kill Benji at this rate, man? I mean, he has just been an absolute nightmare for them to deal with. He's just 1v4ing on their backline and living every time, and oftentimes setting someone pretty low. Somehow, despite Twig not backing that entire time, that was the first time he went back since the beginning, since he first got picked bottom left, I'm pretty sure, the very first iteration of that Gold Fury fight, he still doesn't have enough gold for his pen item, so he's still not going to do any damage in these fights. I don't know what Ghost's game plan is from here, to be honest with you, Hindu Man, because the way these fights have gone, they've been close in the sense that Sam is at least in the position where he can pick one target and insta-kill them every single fight.
Yeah.
That's the best they've got. They're 1-for-1ing at best.
But the thing is, Rama is doing such a good job, Cyclone specifically, is doing such a good job of ulting early, putting damage out to some of the carries that aren't linked, but also buying time where he can't be a focal point, you know? He's buying enough time that when you see the Pele jump towards him, he's like, no, I'm safe, don't worry about me. Meanwhile, you got Agony that's happy to dash around and cause problems, and when either of them get in real trouble, a Fear No Evil arrives. Radiance are looking strong today, and honestly, I know there's been a lot of talk about the sustain options from Ghost and them getting back in it. It's going to be a hard time. Fear No Evil hits Sam, and Sam takes the trade, loses the trade to the Hun Bats in the jungle on the wraparound. Read like a book by adapting, and immediately Ghost have to turn around and fall back.
That was a great play by adapting. Pre-beads necessary,
No
because Sam
wards,
was
yeah.
going to kill him if he got that Volcanic Lightning off. Sam died in the warm-up frames, but if it would have landed, that would have been a kill turnaround for Ghost, which could have been huge.
Here comes Ghost again, though. Meanwhile, Pandacat is having to deal with Benji, and Pandacat can't do anything because of it. Has to resist the sustain off the blue buff. That leaves Mike isolated and alone. Frenzy pop because he realizes he's going to go down soon. Comes into play as well, a bit of a shield there from the shell of Aphrodite, but the bomb stumps from Big Man as they all clump up, cause a death for Polar Bear Mike. FinoK, Twig, and Pandacat, the only ones left alive, and the health bars of Radiance are mighty good right now to turn their attention once again to the Fire Giant at pre-30 minutes.
They've got the damage to do it with Cyclone being 5 items deep in the build, but I mean, Pandacat is still here and pretty healthy. He's got Aegis coming up.
Fine, okay, has no ultimate though, so he's trying to slow them down with the Mire in the pit. Radiance get the FG, and the turn of attention towards Fine, okay, is obvious to everyone that can see it. Aurora's ultimate will just cut off the angle of escape, and Fine Okay goes down, just trying to defend the FG. Next on the list could be Sam, though, who rotates in, and look at the cursed donk usage, too. No sustain for you, Sunshine, as Big Man just drops another big bomb and goes 9, 1, and 6. Radiance are looking great.
But Hitty Man, look at how these fights are all happening for Radiance. It's this 4-man death ball for Radiance that is just swatting flies that are Ghost trying to get into their backline, as Benji just linebackers for them up front. And Twig and Panda Cat, that fight, got to only look at a robot bat. That's the only thing they saw the whole time, and they had no chance of killing him either. It's really been Benji's frontlining that has created so much space for Radiance, and their carries are executing perfectly.
Benji's gonna go for Twig. Twig's low on mana, doesn't have his ultimate available either. The beast doesn't matter to somebody like Kamazots. That is gonna be the game off that already. This is insane, Ryan. Radiance have looked absolutely dominant today, and Ghost have just not found an answer.
In the weird triangle of who's on top of the SPL just gets even more confusing, because Ghost stomped out SSG, but SSG then beat Radiance, and then Radiance stomped Ghost today, so who knows what's going on. All I know is that anytime you've got a game with these few teams involved, it's going to be a really, really fun game to watch. Radiance just came with a really solid plan today. They executed it perfectly, and they just outplayed Ghost from beginning to end.
Real question though, Ryan. Ghost 2 back-to-back losses against 2 top 4 teams. Was that to be as expected? I mean, both those games, today at least, didn't look great for Ghost, in my opinion. Against Sanguine, different story.
I think the big thing for Ghost is like I was saying earlier, they came into these last 2 weeks with the target on their back because so many people considered them to be the best, even though Radiance was also there with that undefeated record. Maybe it's our fault for not giving Radiance quite enough credit, but I think Ghost's playstyle was really under siege these last 2 weeks, and now the onus is really on them to change their playstyle to be a little bit more adaptable.
Well, I'm pretty sure a lot of people's votes at home have been busted this week as of the casters. We've already Radiance taken that win over Ghost. Let's get it over, though, to Dave and Myth on the desk to break down that set.
Thank you, Hindu and Aggro. Yeah, all of us, all 6 of us, 0 for 1 now to start off this week. Every one of us casters had Ghost winning this one. Quite the opposite. Now Ghost 0-4 game-wise in their last 2 sets. 0-2, of course, is what that means. So two-set loss streak for this Ghost squad. Mifflin, though, you look at what happened here in this game. Sam was kind of the saving grace for Ghost, it seemed. Like he was the one outputting a lot of that damage into the backline. I think Adapting had a fantastic game. But the highest KDA player in the league coming into this weekend, BMT, had himself a performance.
He looks absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I don't say it often, or maybe I say it too often, but mid lane diff, BMT diff, Agni diff, I don't care how you want to word it. This dude popped off. He plays into a very pressure-centric composition from Ghost Gaming. Hercules, Uller, Pele, Cthulhu, all these gods that should be really good off in the early game, and BMT still finds top damage for the first 20 minutes, still goes nearly undying, 9 kills, or maybe it was 10 towards the tail end there, and he looks so good on it while maintaining safety the entirety of the time. This dude's a beast.
I think Benji had himself a great game as well, 3-2-7, so not the most prolific KDA, but I think the Kamazots definitely met its mark. Quiet day, really, from the long lane of Ghost Gaming, I think. I think Mike on this Hercules put forward some good mechanical plays here and there in these games. But the rest of Ghost didn't kind of have that cohesion around the rest of it. Fine, okay, 0-3-6, tough time on the Cthulhu, Captain Twig as well, out of that mid lane. You really look at Adapting, I think, in this one, Mifflin, and the Hun Bats continued to hit its mark here in the second game as well as the first.
He looks so good, rotating into these team fights. He was initiating a lot of them with the Fear No Evil. He took a bunch of 1v1s, was able to solo out Sam for Soccer in the jungle around that Fire Giant dance. And I think you're right to say that generally a quiet duo lane from Ghost Gaming, particularly from Panda Cat, we didn't see too much from him. He wasn't rotating out very proactively. He didn't really use the Uller in lane to body out this Rom. He just kind of existed over there. Just a very quiet performance from him. Very uncharacteristic as well.
After a slow start to the phase for Sanguine, they're going to be playing in our next matchup against Obey here today. A chance to tie Ghost in that third place spot. But Radiance now stands alone on top after all of the playing around we've seen these top 3 teams do. Could be 4 after what we see Sanguine do later today, or potentially do rather, up against Obey later today. So quite a way to round out the day here on Friday. See if Sanguine is able to tie things up with Ghost, move themselves past the slow start to this phase, really plant themselves in that top 4 conversation. But it is Radiance in 2-0 fashion. Pretty quick, both sub 30-minute games. They take the win here in this set over Ghost. Coach Biggie is going to tell us how it happened.
Oh, I am so sorry. That was not a bit. I was midway through something else and I forgot he was going to talk to me. But Biggie, big congratulations, first of all. I want to kind of go back to picks and bans with you real quick, because for me, you and Slaney have both been around the team as coaches for a while. Do you think you got the edge over him in picks and bans this week?
I don't think so. I think the problem is they didn't execute their game plan as well as they could have. I mean, game 1 was pretty obvious that they wanted to abuse Benji on Cthulhu, kind of probably in lane and in team fights, and we did read that, and we knew if they ever went on Benji, we had to fight, and so it kind of worked in our favor because we were ready to react to how they want to play. Game 2, I think they also had a good draft and a draft that suited them, but they just the double kill in mid really affected them. It really slowed down the Pele's potential, so they couldn't really abuse dual lane, which I think was their plan, but they also could have gone to solar, and I think that was the problem. It was more just execution.
Gotcha. So you really feel that double kill in mid really changed everything for you rather than the draft? It did feel like that Kamazot's pick in the solo lane was not necessarily forced, but with the bans and the focus towards the other lane, so to speak, it kind of put extra pressure on that solo lane pick of being an awkward one. Was it Agni the reason for the Agni pick, or was Agni getting locked in anyway?
I don't think we were exactly sure. We had a couple of options before we picked Agni. The camo was more, we just didn't want another liability. I felt like the dual lane was kind of a little bit unstable just on the matchup, same with the jungle, and I kind of just wanted something that we didn't have to then, kind of babysit as well through the early game. And Benji, when he plays cameras, you can kind of just leave him on an island and he's generally okay. As you can see, they tried to, I think, abuse him a bit, and then we counter-rotated and kind of snowballed the game off of that.
Yeah, a couple of really good rotations coming through, honestly. I think it was a good performance from the team overall. How do you feel, though, about the community's votes, and I guess the casters as well, to an extent? 8% voted for you guys this week. Do you think you guys are not getting the credit you deserve, or do you think, there's something lying there? How do you feel about that situation?
I mean, I think 8% is a bit steep. But Ghost do have a good matchup into us because we're not a team that is particularly strong early game. So I can understand why people would favor Ghost. But I'm also surprised at how well we played, especially after the way we played last week, to turn around that much. The big thing for me was to try and avoid another slump because we started off strong last split and we really slumped. And the way we played Game Theory against SSG, we kind of were in a good position and we didn't play well as a team. And I was like, okay, I really don't. And then we have Ghost next. I was like, oh, this is kind of on a knife's edge. But we played really well. I feel like that's the best set we've played this year, to be honest, even including the finals MSI.
I can agree with that, honestly. And I will say one other last question for you. You've got E-United on Sunday. It's a big one, technically, because that would definitely guarantee you are top of the seeding, because SSG also have E-United tomorrow. So is there any changes or adaptations you're going to make for E-United? Will you take it easy because you know it's E-United, or are you still going to bring the same?
No, I don't take any team easy. I think even though E-United's at the bottom and they haven't won a set, they can beat us. They have good players, People like I've coached some of their players. They are insane players. I think the bans will change a bit, and probably what we prioritize will change a little bit as well, but not too much. We still have kind of an identity we want to work on and improve on, and we'll just keep playing like kind of our style. I think the only difference is against E-United, you don't have to worry as much about how they play as opposed to Ghost, where you really have to be worried about the way they want to play the game, and you have to adjust to that. So that's the only slight difference there.
Makes a lot of sense. Biggie, congratulations on the victory today. Good work, and we'll see you on Sunday for your next performance. For now, we'll go to the break, and after that, we'll be back with more SMITE action this afternoon.